if I sway off the healthcare to education for just a moment, please?
Sure.
First of all, let me say thank you for having this town hall meeting, which I believe forced Congresswoman Carol Shea-Porter out of hiding for a short time. Since many have spoken on healthcare, and I'd like to note that I oppose government intrusion into our healthcare system, I'd like to address another power grab by the Obama administration. I'd like to address education. Currently, our federal Department of Education is drafting common standards, academic standards. This not only further erodes our 10th Amendment rights, it also translates into a national curriculum. Once there are national standards, we will have a national assessment, which leads to national curriculum. All of this translates to more political indoctrination in our classrooms at the expense of academic excellence. Currently, New Hampshire has some of the poorest math and science standards in the United States. Should be a wake-up call for every parent in here. I'm afraid the Lynch administration will abandon the poorly drafted standards that he set and go for the national standards. If that happens, it will be more difficult for local residents to effect positive change. Absent from individuals drafting these national standards are experts in their respective fields. Sitting on the sidelines are math and literature professors, leaving the impression that those who feel the ramifications from our poor education system are not having their voice heard in this process. There are grassroots organizations like the U.S. Coalition for World-Class Math that have attempted to gain a seat at the table as they draft these standards. The coalition supports standards similar to what is used in Singapore. The countries at the very top, which is Singapore, Hong Kong, and Japan, scored 100 points higher in math on average than the U.S. according to the latest TIMSS report. Unfortunately, they too have no input in drafting math standards. So while the coalition supports world-class standards, they do not endorse national standards as a way of improving math education. This can and should be done locally. My question to you, thank you for listening, would you support an administration, once this one's gone, that understands education works best when it is in the hands of the local community? If they propose abolishing the Department of Education, and would you please visit the New Hampshire Coalition of World-Class Math on the internet, which is a grassroots organization all across America.
Can you repeat it? New Hampshire Coalition
for World-Class Math, and consider endorsing world-class standards for our students in mathematics.
First of all, I will take a look at the that website. I think, you know, as a mayor, we have a lot of discussion about education and the best way to improve test scores and bring accountability into the system. And it's a difficult conversation to have because I think education is so personal to so many people. But here's a few things that I think work, and whether it's on municipal, state, or federal, at the federal level. First and foremost, and I think most people in New Hampshire agree with this, local control is best. We know, and let's have that debate in the local community. So ideas from all sides can come to the forefront and have those dialogues and discussions about it. I personally don't think that a one-size-fits-all from Washington, D.C. approach is good for, you know, New Hampshire or Montana or Florida. I think that we need to come up with the best way to educate our children in our state, number one. Number two, I've seen it in Manchester, and I can tell you, I know as I visited in other communities throughout the district, that it's happening in other communities. There are probably 4 things that I would say that don't cost money, but they would improve education. First and foremost, parental involvement. I can't encourage it enough. I'm a parent of a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. Morgan and I spend a lot of time reading to our kids and trying to do our part to educate our kids. We don't rely on the education system solely to educate our children, and nor should anybody else. Parental involvement is so critical. Secondly, early intervention is just as critical. When you look at the ability for a young child, let's talk about pre-K or kindergarten or first grade, for that individual, the kids, their minds are like sponges. The best time to teach a child a secondary language is before third grade. The best time to get them reading and understanding a math curriculum, it's all before third grade. But that's not the state's responsibility, that's our responsibility as parents. Thirdly, and I don't know how many people are familiar with this, but we have a term in education called social promotion. When a child goes from 5th to 6th grade, but they don't meet the requirements of 5th grade, they still get pushed along. It tends to happen more in cities than in rural communities. That's a problem, because by the time you get to 9th grade, that child is not ready for that class. And guess what? That's not fair to that student, to every other student in the class, or that teacher, who then is faced with going to their local school board or their superintendent and saying, I've got X number of kids who are taking up more time than they should take, and the other kids are not getting challenged enough or not getting enough access to the teacher. I've heard it from so many teachers that say to me in 9th grade that the kids are not ready for 9th grade. That's social promotion. That is something that we have to accept as going on in our communities, and we have to stop it. And I think fourth, you know, when you go into a school and you talk to teachers, there are discipline issues in the classrooms that are not being addressed, that take time away from that teacher's ability to teach the children. Those things are about how a school is run, the tone and tenor of a school district, and those 4 things can very much improve the quality of education and that child's ability to learn. And if we focused on those 4 things, we also, you know, can focus on the budget, we can focus on curriculum, we can focus on the things that teachers require in order to have the right tools. But let's focus on those things first, and then let's get into those other issues that are just as equally important to try to move on our educational system. But I'll read the website, and if you give us your contact information, I will make sure I get back to you with an answer.